The Costa Rican Investment Promotion Agency, also known as CINDE, is a private, non-political and non-profit organization. It's advised and guided over 400 high-tech companies to establish themselves within the country. Today, we'd like to welcome Mr. Jorge Sequeira, Managing Director of CINDE. Welcome to you, Jorge. Can you just tell us a bit more about CINDE, what you do and the sectors in which you operate?
Sure, Georgie, and thank you very much for the invitation. So CINDE is the investment promotion agency of Costa Rica. We're a private, apolitical, and nonprofit organization. I think that's what really sets us apart from other investment promotion agencies around the globe. We work very closely with the Ministry of Foreign Trade and the Export Promotion Agency in a public-private partnership. But our role has been for over 40 years to attract companies and help diversify Costa Rica's economy. We have moved in over this period from a country that was basically an agricultural economy for basic products, which were sugar, meat, coffee, and bananas, to a fully diversified economy today that exports over 4,000 different products to 160 countries around the world. And in fact, our number one export today is not even a product, it's services, which is knowledge intensive services, of which we exported $7 billion in 2022. And the number one export product is medical devices, of which we will export $6 billion in 2022. So a completely diversified and changed economy, even though most of the world still thinks of us as a country that exports coffee and bananas and pineapple, particularly here in the UK. But surprise, that's not really what Costa Rica exports today, and that's not what our economy is based on today.
Can you talk me through the steps that you take to help your clients?
Yeah, sure. I think that's one of the things that sets us apart. We don't only help companies make that decision of which is the right geography for them during that site selection process. We provide, of course, that support. But once they make a decision for Costa Rica, that's when we say our true job starts, which is help facilitate the whole installation process of those companies in Costa Rica to be a buffer for the red tape and all the institutionalities that all countries in the world have, and Costa Rica is not the exception. As you know, we sort of handhold them, through the whole process to make it easy and fast for them to establish operations in Costa Rica. But it doesn't end there either. Once that's done and they're operating and they're happy in our country, then we go into the aftercare process, which is helping them understand what other opportunities there are for them in Costa Rica in terms of diversifying what they're doing, growing their current operation, and sophisticating their operations. So perhaps a company that came for advanced manufacturing wants to look at bringing IT, or wants to look at bringing corporate services, or a company that came for corporate services might want to look into bringing R&D. So, that's part of what we do, and it's a virtuous circle, that continues happening over time, and we never let go of our customers. We work with them through the whole life cycle and continue supporting them and providing them our services, which, by the way, all of them are 100% free.
As a company, you talk a lot about sustainable productivity. Can you just explain to me what that actually means to you?
Okay, so sustainable productivity has to do with a value proposition, we basically talk about the 3 Ps: people, planet, and prosperity. People has to do with the fact that Costa Rica was the first country in the world to abolish the army by constitution 70 years ago. We took that money and invested it in health and education. So today we have developed a talent pool, which is what all these multinationals come looking for in Costa Rica. The P for planet stands, for the fact that it is one of the most sustainable and environmentally friendly countries in the world. We have 58% forest coverage. 99% of our electric grid is clean and renewable, which means that a company that comes to operate in Costa Rica and just connects to our matrix will automatically be carbon neutral, at least from the point of view of electric consumption. And then we have the prosperity, the last P, which is prosperity, has to do with a collaborative ecosystem of these 400 companies that, even though they might be competitors, globally speaking, in Costa Rica, they collaborate to create, a more productive and more competitive ecosystem for all, working with the academia, with government, with local governments, and with the communities. So all of that together is what we call sustainable productivity. So Costa Rica doesn't position itself as a low-cost geography. We position ourselves as a productive, a competitive geography, and that's what we mean by a sustainable productivity.
How has sustainable productivity become a driver, though, for companies expanding their operations in Costa Rica?
Well, as I'm sure you're well aware, Georgie, companies more and more are looking at the sustainability factor when they make decisions. their consumers want to make sure that they're buying products and services from companies that are committed to sustainability, to the SDGs, in many of the factors that I mentioned earlier. So, the fact that Costa Rica is a global leader in sustainability, that we have won the Earthshot Award, that we were the first, the country rewarded by the United Nations for its efforts in sustainability, that we have this a clean and sustainable energy matrix, and so on and so forth, allows us to offer companies the possibility to come and operate in a sustainable way out of Costa Rica. So, more and more companies tell us that it's not just about cost, that in fact it is even more important to find, of course, first of all, the talent, but also that they want to be operating in a country that is committed to sustainability with the environment, with all the terms related to gender equality, diversity and inclusion, and so on and so forth.
What kind of companies is CINDE trying to attract?
Well, like I mentioned earlier, the main sectors that we work with are services. Services, there are two large groups, I guess, that we could split it in two. One of them is digital technologies, companies such as Microsoft and Amazon and the likes. And then corporate services, which are companies of any industry that want to have their corporate services systems in Costa Rica to serve the Americas, or to serve the markets globally, whether it's internal services, to serve themselves as a back office, or to serve their customers globally from Costa Rica in multiple languages, up to 10 different languages. We're supporting customers around the world. The second really important sector is medical devices. We have about 100 global leaders of medical devices. Like I mentioned earlier, it has become the number one goods export sector in Costa Rica. And we have quite a robust group of local suppliers. So it's a very successful sector that's growing very fast. And we expect that to continue. All of these sectors, we expect them to continue growing over the next few years. Then we have advanced manufacturing, the likes of Intel, which has a very, very large footprint in Costa Rica, and R&D. It has a final testing and assembly plant. We have companies such as Solner and many other advanced manufacturing companies. And then we have the food industry and the agribusiness sectors that are becoming more and more important as we try to bring more investment into regions outside the greater metropolitan area. So that is a sector that has become really important for us as well.
Why do high-tech enterprises see Costa Rica as a good base from which to scale up regional operations?
Yeah, well, that's the answer is very clear. It's because of the talent. Globally, these companies will go searching for the talent wherever they can find it, right? And Costa Rica, because of having invested in its population, in its health and its education, and we have a pretty good level of bilingualism, is a perfect place for companies to come and do business, to deliver services, whether it's internally for their own corporations or externally to their final customers. So it's really all about talent.
Costa Rica's free trade zone regime has been one of the main reasons for reinvestment of companies. Can you just explain to us what exactly the free trade zone regime is?
Yes, and in fact, it's of course one of our competitive advantages as well. It's really important to mention it. Thank you for that question. Well, basically, Costa Rica offers and I have to clarify this an OECD and World Trade Organization compliant free trade zone, which allows up to 0% income tax, 0% import tariffs, 0% repatriation tax, and almost indefinitely, because you can get that treatment for 8 years, but then you can reset the clock again if you reinvest before those 8 years. So it really doesn't get much better than that, 0%. And basically, like I said, this is something that you can continue resetting over time as long as you continue investing in the country. So it's a very important competitiveness tool for us, because even though we don't offer other incentives such as cash grants that other countries can offer, when you bring present value of 0% tax, what that means in terms of tax credits, depending obviously on the size of the operation, but that can mean tens or hundreds of millions of dollars over time.
As I mentioned earlier, you've advised and guided over 400 high-tech companies to establish themselves within the country. Companies such as Intel, Pfizer, Amazon, Microsoft, Coca-Cola, Bayer. What would you say to any company wanting to set up in Costa Rica?
Well, I would say, don't even think about it. Come, we have the track record. You will be in good company. And no matter what process, manufacturing or services process you want to deliver to your customers globally, probably somebody else is doing it already in Costa Rica. We will help you make the right decision. We will provide you with the data so that you can make that correct decision. And it's a place that has offers everything. First of all, the talent, a great geographic location, access to both the Atlantic and the Pacific from a very small geography. We're in the same time zone as the United States, central time zone of the United States, with dozens of daily flights to all the major cities in the US. And we have a great free trade zone regime. And we have free trade agreements with 2/3 of the world's GDP and the population, including all of the Americas, Canada, the United States, Mexico, with China, with the EU. It's a great place overall to do business, and it doesn't hurt that we're the happiest country in the world.
Where do you see CINDE and Costa Rica in terms of investment, the economy in the next 5 years? What would be its core strategy?
Yes, I think that Costa Rica will continue to, as long as we continue to do our homework, we will do very well. We feel very bullish. The sectors that we have decided upon and that we have invested on, like medical devices and digital technologies and corporate service, are all sectors that will continue to grow during the forthcoming years. And that's because there's an aging population that will require more medical devices over time. We become more digital, more virtual, et cetera. That will require more digital technologies and services all around. And again, these are winning sectors that, even though they might fluctuate and have their ups and downs, overall the tendency is to see these sectors continue growing. So we believe that Costa Rica has a great opportunity. When you add to that nearshoring and friendshoring, these are all opportunities, tailwinds that support our vision of a Costa Rica moving towards prosperity.
Mr. Jorge Sequeira, Managing Director of CINDE. Thank you.
Thank you, Georgie. Great to be here.